Tracy Lewis from Stuff and Things. I had a comment left on my blog for this particular card telling me that they tried and couldn't replicate what I had done. So they've asked me to create a video on how I did it. So I have spent some time. I created this during a crafting day with Libby. We craft thousands of miles apart, and we just get on the phone, on our cell phones, and we use Pinterest. And the trick with this particular card that I would surmise that the person was having difficulty in replicating is, first off, the softness in the colors. What I had done was inked up on a block this particular stamp with two colors, and I stamped it on a hard surface. And how I figured that out is I have samples here where I was trying to replicate my process, and I was using the Stamparatus, and you can see even this is with, I had originally thought I had used Daffodil Delight. This is Daffodil Delight using the Stamparatus. Even just one pass is so much darker than this one that then I was creating them without the Stamparatus, but using a cushioned surface. I was using the Stamparatus cushion. And I still was getting too dark. So I had some samples, and here's an example, way too dark, too dark, too dark, too dark. So here's what the trick is. I have figured it out. The secret, and this stamp set, I should just say, is using what's called Beautiful Friendship, which I absolutely love, and it is a distinctive stamp, and you can see that it has its own lights to darks. So you should be able to ink it up, and if you're trying to do multiple colors, you can use the Stamparatus to then go over the edges with a complementary color, or one stamp should be enough. But to get this light of a tone, which you'll see I actually got it even lighter than this tone, was stamping on a surface. And I remember stamping it, and as the stamp is going down, I'm thinking, oh, I should have brought out my Stamparatus, but I went ahead with it anyway. So let me ink up, since this is a replicate what I did, and I am not a good repeater, by the way. So I created this card back in June. So for me to have to go back and try to replicate something I did a whole month ago is actually not very easy for me, because it's not my gift. I'm a one-off crafter as a rule. So basically, I remember I had inked it. So inking the Pineapple Punch, the secret here is I don't see any streaks, so I must have patted. So I usually go a swipe like so, and then I pat to try to get rid of any of the linen lines. Then I remember taking the lipstick around the edges and looking at it. I think I might have done a little softening with a sponge. And then that's it. I inked it, and I remembered inking it then on this hard surface. And let's see how we do. So something like that is pretty close to the lights. And now that I have talked about how I achieved the main flower, I will do the complementary off-side flower really quickly. If I were to do it again, I see that the off flower is pink. I think if I were to do it again, I would not do it in all pink. I would add some yellow. See, this is where I'm already straying from repeating exactly what I did, because I'm not so good. I'm always changing, altering, trying to improve. And already I see a couple marks on here, so I will definitely be taking my sponge to soften the lines. Give it a huff. And I actually like that better. So hopefully you do too. Now we get to the fun part. How How I actually generate a scene like this is with what I would call very simply overlapping masking. When I mask, my preference is to overlap rather than underlap. And I think when you do the overlaps, it softens and prevents that hard edge of like the white lines. You can see here that my green overlapped a tiny bit with the pink. This one I did underlap, but for the most part, 90% of my second stamps or subsequent stamps overlap. So when I take and I do this flower right here, I'm actually overlapping. See, so that's an overlap. So if you're trying to replicate this type of a process, be sure to overlap, and then also be sure to mask. So I will show masking next. I have one more to do down below here. So that's the basic layout that I did. I also like to always stamp off the edge of both sides, and I'm also going to trim this down. This is a full 4 1/4 by 5 1/2, and I always start with a full 4 1/4 by 5 1/2, and then trim my image down, looking at the best way to crop it so that it looks its best. So now we get into working with the leaves. I can put the punch away. So the leaves were done. It looks like no stamping off. Again, on a hard surface. I think I did all of this without putting it on a soft surface, because I will show you, I have done a complete sample using the foam, and I do not believe I used foam on this, which is why some people might be struggling to replicate what I had done. So there's one leaf with a tiny bit of overlap, and then we'll do another leaf with a little bit of overlap. I'm looking at the image. I wouldn't normally, if I'm doing something a second time, I'm not usually ever following this close, but I'm just trying to replicate for the requester who wanted to see how I did this, fulfilling their wishes. All right, so there's the greens. I'm going to then move down below here to add some greens. Now, this is like a random cut. I don't ever make it exact because I want to overlap, but I just make enough little swoops to give me ways that I can change the angle. And I am using, if I want to pick this up, it's best, in my opinion, you can use regular copy paper, you can use a regular Post-it, but this is a Post-it that the full back is sticky, so that if I did need my second hand free and I didn't want my mask to move, I could pick it up, ink. I think I need to be over here. Back it off a little bit so I see a little bit of the edge, and then I'm going to stamp. All right. I see I did a green off the edge on this side. Oh, look at that, big smudge. So one of the things you have to watch for, it's this finger that's dirty or inky, is make sure that you don't get your fingers all inky when you're re-inking. And I'm probably less inclined. The only reason why I did ink is here's my lovely lipstick without the lid on, so that's naughty. And if I'm with using spots, I should be pretty safe, you would think. So let's go ahead, and because of the positioning here, I want one more little bit of a leaf nub showing, just like so. All right, so now I created the centers of the flowers and the sprig. all with lovely lipstick. I think these colors I believe were a color challenge, so I was prescribed these colors. I actually didn't pick them. So there's lots of different colors out there. I've got actually some samples when we're all done that I'll show you that I did in a different set of, 2 different sets of colors actually. So on the sprig, same thing, got my mask, and I'm going to replicate, overlapping a little bit. See, so I overlapped there. And looks like I need a couple of ones up here. I'll rotate this around. Alright, and a third one that I actually didn't quite leave myself enough room to do. So I think I might try to set it in a little different spot and not make it very big. Oops. Maybe I'll do one more. What I would love to do is cover that mistake there with something, and I'm not sure if I can do it, but since this is just a sample, when I do make a mistake like that, my inclination is to hide it, and there's my hiding of it. I might even say, well, at that point I want a little more yellow. So I'm sorry, going off script a little bit here. But that's what makes crafting so much fun for me, because I do like to be spontaneous at creating. So I think that corner still looks nice, and I probably will do one last little bit of just a little hint. Alright. So the last bit to do will be the flower centers. And then the little guy. Alright, so there you have my scene, or my floral arrangement, and I have, if you're wondering what blocks I'm using, these are paper pumpkin blocks, and I teach classes at the campgrounds. I use a lot of paper pumpkin kits and promote it to campers as a really good way, fun way to get into crafting. And you get your kit every month. You get your first kit comes with a complimentary paper pumpkin block. So I own 5 of them, and I find them just a really easy small block to use. I'm going to go ahead and get this stamped. And there is my replication. And now I'm going to show you some other completed ones with slightly different colors and how easy it is to replicate this particular design. I created this using this particular one, Mango Melody Daffodil Delight Melon Mambo. That's the flower that ended up quite orange. I was trying to make it have the yellow to orange to pink, but the pink got muddied and ended up orange. And then Rich Razzleberry are the centers, and Melon Mambo are the sprigs with Granny Apple Green. So that was fun. I just was testing that I could replicate, and I noted how dark this came out. So here's the difference. This is done on the Stamparatus with a soft surface, and the only way I found to get this light color was stamping on the hard surface. Next I have I need sympathy cards, so for fun, I had seen a Pinterest completely different design than this, but using the beautiful friendship. So I did brown tones with gray for the leaves, and I think this came out really nice. This was an exact copy. Oh, there was a boo-boo here, just like the one I just fixed. And then I had a boo-boo in the middle here, which is where I moved the heartfelt sympathy as needed to cover it. Because when I find when I'm doing multiple stampings like this, I do tend to get messy. I am a quick stamper. So, not a quick crafter, just a quick stamper. Here are all of the examples. And I hope this clarifies exactly how I created the card so that you can take this stamp set and replicate it. And then go off on your own and do your own designs. Yep, so you can see those all. Hopefully this is what my requester was after and I answered all the questions. Be sure if you still have any more questions, attach them to the YouTube or to my blog. Thanks for watching.